Hey guys, Enkidu here. So this is a Trickster Winter Orb character that I was playing for the Blight League. I got to level 92, and I really wanted to try Winter Orb again since the nerf. So here's what they had done. A few leagues ago, Winter Orb was probably the strongest skill in the game, certainly one of the more popular skills in the game. It was to the point where it was one of the most popular things on POE Ninja. So here's what they had done. They added some flat cold damage, which is technically a very small buff, just a little bit. Base duration is now 1.2 seconds up from a base 0 duration. Okay, that's technically a buff, means more Winter Orb uptime. Now states that increases and reductions to cast speed now apply to projectile frequency. How often it spits out projectiles' actual behavior is unchanged. Yeah, this always worked like that, it's just now the gem actually says it. Now has 20% reduced target acquisition range. Okay. Prior, when I played Winter Orb in 3.6, Winter Orb couldn't off-screen, but it could hit the very edge of the screen. Now you notice it, but once you understand that your radius is basically here instead of here, it's just fine with me. I had no issue with it. And then, now fires projectiles every 1.6 from every 1.8. This is the big thing that really turned a lot of people off to Winter Orb, and it turned from the skill that 30 or 40% of the player base was using in one specific league into, a 1 or a 2% skill. Actually, let's take a look while we're here. So we're going to look in Blight League. We're going to sort by Winter Orb. 0.6% of the players are playing Winter Orb. Not many. And now gains 25% increased duration per stage, but that just affects how often Winter Orb stays up. And now has 100% more projectile frequency while channeling. So if you look at it this way, it has 50% less and then 100% more, which is a net gain of 0 unless I'm totally off on my math. And the way I had played Winter Orb is I never really messed around with any of the potency of wills, with any of this and that. I didn't want to channel and then not do anything and then run around. It's nice that Winter Orb stays and can shoot things once you have the skill active, but I didn't view that as the primary thing of the skill. So what I find myself doing is standing still and channeling. And I stand still and I channel, and I stand still and I channel, and this is how I kill bosses. And every now and again I'll zip around, and I'm still channeling, and zip around, I'm still channeling, zip around, I'm still channeling, and I'm proccing Arcane Surge with my Flame Dash. So I really liked, actually, the air quote nerfs to the skill. I think that it does plenty of damage still, but let me show you the tree. So I started out as a Trickster because it's channeling, and when you're channeling, you gain power and frenzy charges. So I really wanted to turn the crit up to 11 as much as I could, so the very first note I got was Swift Killer. Then I went and got Patient Reaper. Patient Reaper is an option in this build. I mean, the most meta way to play this build is to do the Chaos shenanigans. So in case you guys weren't aware, when you convert, so for example, I'm just going to go ahead and guess that this guy's running Cold to Fire. There you go, Cold to Fire. So Winter Orb is a projectile skill. You channel it, puts a little Winter Orb above your head, and then the orb above your head find targets for you within the range that you have. When you convert from Cold to Fire, and then my guess is he's also running the unique ring. Nope, probably the next guy is, though. Actually, let's just sort by DPS. There you go, 3.4 million. That has to be ridiculous. And then he's also converting that Cold to Fire. At every stage you're converting, you're adding your gain 4% of non-chaos as extra chaos, and gaining the gain 20% of elemental damage as extra chaos. You're gaining that again. So if you had 100 damage, and let's just say this wand does 24%, you're then gaining 48 every time you convert. So if you notice over here, he only has 1% cold, 12% fire, and then 87% chaos. Of course, the Eternity Shroud, the 13 or 30 Exalt, is gain additional extra chaos per shaper item equipped, and then they find shaped sapphire rings, and then they chance them till they get the pyre. I don't like those particular builds. Number one, they're way too expensive, right? 30, 40, 50, 60 exalts to get off the ground, and it's just not something even 97% of the player base can do. So I decided to build Winter Orb a little differently, and actually have it be cold, and actually have it crit. But that being said, because I'm not doing the goofy shenanigans of Chaos Conversion, this node wasn't fantastic for me. I liked recovering life and energy shield and mana from kill. It does nothing on bossing. If you really wanted to, you could do this. If you don't like the 35 mana cost, you could do Weave the Arcane, but I liked Patient Reaper. And then, of course, Ghost Dance and Escape Artist. I think in between Ghost Dance and Escape Artist, there's now 2 consecutive nerfs on them, where it's less cast speed per Ghost Shroud, and it's less evasion chance per Ghost Shroud, and then they slow down how fast you get the Ghost Shrouds back. But it's still very strong, because it allows you to run evasion and energy shield chests, and then energy shield hats. I only have maybe 300, 600 total energy shield on my character, and I have 2600, which is just a nice overall buff to your life pool, because still the game is balanced around having 6 and 7 and 8k life, or 6k life with Fortify, which is functionally 7500, and that's basically the goals of character. Alright, so with the tree, I largely just went elemental damage, life, cast speed. I liked this whole cluster. Go down, get Frenzy Charge, get Power Charge. It's nothing really crazy. I ended up not going over here and getting stuff like Lucidity and Nimbleness because I didn't feel that I needed it. And I'll show you why here in a minute. So I got to get one side of the Cold Wheel. The new Power Charge cluster is actually really good. So 8% increased mana regeneration I didn't need at that point, but increased crit per Power Charge, increased multi per Power Charge, and increased damage per Power Charge. The +1 minimum I don't really care about, but the interesting part is, and then over here for the other Power Charge, Devotion, Life, nothing crazy. Okay, so when you channel, and it kind of looks like he's like driving a car, it's kind of wacky. When you channel, and you'll sit there, and every second I'll gain a power or a frenzy up to my maximum, which is 7 power and 5 frenzy. And you see there? Okay, great. So I have 74% spell crit and 505 multi, which is quite a lot. I don't think I've ever gotten 500 multi crit multiplier on a character that wasn't melee wearing Abyssus, right? Where you get that nice 130 to 150 on it. So it's at about 30,000, and cast speed's about 0.13, and that's per projectile, and that's not including hypothermia. Now, I'm running Pandemonious, which is great. So a league or two ago, they had actually changed that some spells couldn't, air quote, hit any longer because Warlord's Mark on hit rings were used for Frostbolt Ice Nova, for a lot of different spells for life and Mana Leech, because as a caster, getting Mana Leech was very, very difficult, and some spells are 200-300 mana per cast, and getting 200 or 300 mana almost isn't even technically feasible in the game. But this amulet still gives you chill enemy for 1 second when hit, reducing their action speed by 30%, and then blind chilled enemies on hit. Damage penetrates 20% cold resist against chilled enemies. So every time you hit an enemy, which is anytime, literally anytime you hit an enemy, they're chilled, so their action speed is reduced. They are blinded, which effectively doubles all of your evasion chance, any block chance that you have, all that stuff. And then you get another cold penetration of 20%, which is a fantastic amulet. I mean, Breach came out 3 or 4 years ago, and this is still a top-tier amulet. This cost me 5 or 5.5 exalts a couple weeks ago when I first made the character, because it is still that good of an amulet. It's just fantastic for any cold build, especially any cold crit build, as well as the added defensive layers, and giving up just a smidgen of life or a little bit of extra resistance or something like that really goes a long way. So, I was able to allocate Heartseeker using the oils. So I actually like the league. I think that, and here's all my oils that I had gotten through 2 characters. I think a lot of people are really poo-pooing on the league because it doesn't have as much loot, and you can't just drop a headhunter randomly. You can't just do all that stuff. But this league is actually really, really good in my opinion, because you do the league mechanic and you're not instantly killed, right? you aren't even hit by the monsters unless you stand in their way. So I found this to be a really, really nice build for, let's say, the Blights over here, to just stand here and just chunk them down. It was really a fun character that had a lot of damage. So my 6th link, I'm running a level 21 Winter Orb, which is getting +1 from a wand, infused channeling, conk effect, increased crit strikes, greater multiple projectiles, and hypothermia. So technically, in POE Ninja and path building, all that stuff like that, controlled destruction, which is a more gem multiplier, is 5 or 10% more DPS, but you lose about 25% crit. And I really wanted to turn the multi up quite a lot. So 475 with no power charges. I wanted as much multi as I could, and it ended up being a pretty good character. So I got this, which I actually thought was quite a nice wand. It has about 80 plus spell damage. I think it's tier 2 flat cold. Tier 3, that's fine. Some multi, and then I was able to mastercraft as extra chaos because it is a nice extra chunk of chaos. I'm not increasing the chaos at all in my tree, but that's basically 8% more damage after it's all said and done, which you just slap that on a weapon. I mean, who doesn't like that? And then over here, actual mediocre wand, but the +1 level of all cold spell skill gems was great. So it was a bit of a shame because I had come over here and I had gotten, actually I don't know where it is anymore. I had gotten a staff, there it is, a +3 cold spell damage, cold spell skill gems staff. And I just slapped some spell. I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. I'll put it on at 67. I'll just map with a staff instead of 2 wands. This has to be better, right? Nope. Way worse. It would have to be a +3 all cold spell skill gems staff with some flat and some cast speed and some spell damage to equal 2 wands. 1 mediocre wand with a great roll of the cold gems and then 1 actually good wand. I wish that they gave staffs some more love, and I mean, I know that they were trying to do that by now having +3 to all level, but the idea here being they changed the mod where it said it used to be just socketed. So it used to say +1 level of socketed cold, chaos, fire, whatever gems, in wands and scepters and staves, and they changed that so that there's still that roll in some weapons, and then now other weapons can now roll all. So it's actually relatively cheap and easy to get a level 22 spell of your choice now. Talk about power creep, but that's what it is. So the rest of it is just rare. And another nice part about Winter Orb really not being meta, remember we looked, it was about 0.7 or 0.8% of the people were actually running it, is the Winter Orb has +2 maximum stages, which affect projectile frequency, which may even affect damage and stuff like that. It was about 100 casts. And then I just rolled this with essences myself until I got a mediocre helmet. And then everything else is just rares. So one of the reasons I decided not to go down and get lucidity and nimbleness, other than, the tree was moderately point starved, is a 30 crit multi jewel was about 15 chaos. That was about 10 chaos, and that was about 15. Area damage, the spell block for dual wielding, because why not? And then 30 crit multi. It's crazy. These used to be multiple Exalt jewels, or at least an Exalt jewel, and they're so cheap now. You could just find them all over trade. So I'm going to show you at the end of this clip a shaper I had done. I got smacked around a few times because I haven't fought him in a few months, and I forgot about some of his teleport slam attacks, but overall it's a really solid character. So let me queue up a map and I'll show you what we were doing here. So I think we were actually pretty close to spawning Uber Elder here, so what should we do? Glacier, Overgrown Ruin, Sunken City. So I thought he was close to no, Overgrown Ruin. So summon. That's just a Shaper Stronghold. We can do that. There's no issue with that. I don't want them to crit my face off. That should be fun. Okay. So one of the other big things they did this league is the master system, and basically these little numbers mean what do you have available on white maps, what do you have available on yellow, and what do you have available on red, in case you're unfamiliar. When you look at your map stash tab. These are whites, obviously. You can see the colors. These are yellows, and then these are the reds, and then uniques don't really count. So, in that I'm about to go do a red map, I can choose which master I want on there. So, I was doing Nico a little bit ago, so I'll just slap a Nico in there. Check prophecies, doesn't really matter. Stone Golem up, and let's go do this. So, a channel in the beginning, but not too much, it doesn't really matter. And let's go forward and do this. So as you can see, I don't really find the target acquisition range to be all that bad. It doesn't really bother me. I do remember, and I played, a 10,000 ES character when Winter Orb was super good, but it's not really an issue. Oh, one of the other things I decided to do with this character, I really wanted to focus on the slows, so I ran Aspect of a Spider. So even just running around while Winter Orb was still active, it was actually still going at a decent time, but as you can see, these monsters... Oh, hello, Mr. Ghost, let's kill you. But as you can see, when monsters get close to me, they get webbed up. Those spiders, you can't really see it all that well. And that very quick regeneration of my... Ooh, let me get out of there. Very quick regeneration of my life was Patient Reaper, which is why I liked it. So I'm actually going to probably trigger this before the boss, because it'd be hilarious. So constantly webbing up monsters is really nice. I like that quite a bit. I like the Patient Reaper of just like, oh, look at that, boom, you killed a little bit of mobs and here's a bunch of regen. I find that to be very good, because it's a character with a moderate amount of evasion, but, I've always felt that characters in Path of Exile should have some defenses, because it just feels gross when they don't, in my opinion. I know a lot of people just don't bother with it nowadays, or they adjust their playstyle to the point where they just mechanically know exactly what the monsters are going to do at any particular time, so they just avoid it, which of course is the best defense, is not getting hit, because you don't have to do anything at that point. Alright, so let's get Spell Echo, and let's go stop the boss. Flame dash with that is really goofy. Avoid this giant jump. Cast yourself into oblivion. And sooner or later, he casts fire on the ground. Oh, I'm out of speed potion. Just try not to let him land on your face while you're doing this part. No, rainbows. Alright, let's see how quick we can burn him down. Throw a orb on his feet, and he's down. So it's actually not too far away from where the DPS would actually be at normally, believe it or not. It's actually a high DPS character, but it's just not ridiculous levels. Like I showed you on Path of Building, it's not the 2, the 3, or the 5 million damage per second, because the chaos conversion is just broken. If some of you guys who watch this video have been around a while and you remember Kinetic Blast or Lightning Arrow piercing through frost walls, and how that would proc the explosions innate to the projectiles, and then they would hit the wall behind the monster, and it would proc it again, and just how badly that was abused by the player base, I feel like that's exactly what's happening with the goofy chaos conversion stuff. I feel like it just wasn't ever meant to happen, and GGG is just going to remove it, and then it's just going to be that. The mountain? Oh, I can't even pick a div card. Actually, let me go back and do loot real quick. So, I know what some of you are thinking. Did you pick up rares? Question mark. Yes, I did. It is so not meta to pick up and identify rares, and then run a 1 and 2 and whatever chaos shop and just mark stuff for 6 and 10 and stuff like that, that it's actually kind of profitable. I've been around long enough in this game, since closed beta, that I like the item generation system. It's one of the things that attracted me to the game in the beginning, and I actually think that it's a good system with value steel boxes, with some really cool outcomes. And it's some of the fun of I identify, oh look at that, that's a nice little 5 chaos thing, that's a 10 chaos thing, let me craft some life on this, and you're helping people out, right? I may not be a huge active member of the community, you know, I used to lead the guild and stuff like that, but it got to the point where I just quit wanting to talk to people all the time. Sometimes I just want to path and listen to an audiobook, which is rather difficult when you have a group full of people who all want advice, or all want you to look at their build, look at this tree, all that stuff like that, and I just sort of got out of it. And to be honest with you, I like it better this way, but there's times when I do want some interaction and stuff like that. So I had actually made this character and played with my girlfriend that I live with. So she and I play. I take 2 weeks off work. I play the new league. And then I make up enough money to make her a character, which I had done Cat's Soul Rend with her, and I had gotten her the Helm enchantment for Hinder. So she was hindering. And then I gave her temp chains on hit gloves, so she was hindering and temp chains on hit. Then I was chilling and freezing. And then I threw on Aspect of the Spider, and honestly, some of the bosses in the game stop dead. It was very, very funny, and I'm going to try to capture some footage of all that going on for a later video here. But so this was the Winter Orb Trickster. Non-chaos conversion, goofy stuff that a lot of people do. Yes, it's a dog shit load more damage. No, it's not really how I want to play, and I don't think that GGG is going to leave that in the game for too much longer. It's just sort of is what it is there. So I bet you Monstrous Treasure is actually worth something. So I would go over here. So I'm like, oh, I got a drop. So let's see what it's worth. Monstrous. Usually try to ignore the first few people as they're price fixing, so I'm seeing a median price of 30, maybe even 35, and there you go, 30, 35 chaos, which is the price of the map and then some, so let's say 30. I try to usually put it a few C under market value because I'd rather it sell in 5 minutes than in 5 hours or 5 days for 5C more, right? And that's usually what I think. So I financed my first character, which was Stormbrand, which honestly kind of sucked. It just, the DPS just isn't there, the survivability isn't there. I just don't really like the skill very much. And you end up, I ended up getting a fair amount of Chaos and Exalt and everything like that, just on its own. Afterwards, after financing 5x for this, probably another 2 or 3 for her character, another 2 or 3 for mine, and it ended up being a nice, successful league for me. Actually, you know what? I forgot to go do the Cassia, so I could show you guys what I like doing with this character. So let's proc Cassia, and let's see what happens. So in red maps, this shit I found to be pretty goddamn difficult. Maybe your guys' experience differ, but I found this to be rather challenging with the monster HP and everything else. The multipliers of the Blight monsters in specific, so 2 on top of each other. 3 on top of each other, that's nice. It's sort of rough when a Shaper spawns right on top of you. So this is what I was talking about with Winter Orb. I found myself just standing still and hitting 3 and 4 to get my my Granite Flask and everything else up and available. Oh, shit. I did not see, because I'm not playing with my sound on so that you guys don't have to hear echoes. Titty shooters. I'd actually done some Blight maps too. I found it to be a pretty good build for Blight mapping. Had no real issue. Now and again, throw down your thing, and there you go. So I found this to be a really nice build for this league in particular because I want to stand still and channel. Right? Winter Orb, it used to be you channel and then that. And you get as much skill effect duration as you can, and Winter Orb just fires all the time. It's firing to the edge of the screen, and it's clearing everything in any kind of rough distance to you, and you have no problem. Right? Now, you actually want to stand still and channel. I mean, unless you have millions of minutes of damage, but in that case, you don't really care about the mechanics of the game because you're no longer playing the game. You just right-click and everything dies. Like, you don't have to dodge, you don't have to do anything. You insta-phase everything. But with this league and this character, I actually found this to be a really nice way to play. Really nice and fun. Let's see what we got. Nothing. So, this was the character. I hope you guys liked it. I hope you give Winter Orb a try. It's not bad at all. Yes, it was nerfed from the way it was, but overall the DPS is still there. It's quite good. Actually, let me pull up Path of Building really quick, and let's see what the DPS actually says it is. I'll import my own character. Import, export, Corinhorn. We want Nook, passive tree, items, and then go over to the tree. Alright, so I get rid of that. Yeah, okay, that's my tree. Skills, Winter Orb, yep, that looks right. Tree configuration. Alright, yes, I'm at 7 power charges, yes, I'm at 7 frenzy. Let's just say I'm on Consecrated Ground. Oh, I forgot to show you guys my auras. So I'm running Aspect of the Spider. I'm running Zealotry for more spell damage, a little bit of increased crit, and then create Consecrated Ground, which I think I'm 300 or 400 or 500% health regen in Consecrated Ground, which I actually found great for party play as well. And then Clarity. I'm running Clarity so that I can channel Winter Orb, even in 60% reduction maps, and never dip down on mana. I don't need more than the 80 or 100 or 130 that I have there. You just don't. I was thinking about dipping down here and trying to get some reduced reserved, and then maybe what's that one in green gem that allows you to even reduce a little bit less, the mana reservation of an aura, and then stick in Herald of Ice. But Herald of Ice was like 800 damage. Like I didn't care. It goes up to about 30,000 per projectile. I showed you guys that before, and it's not even counting the hypothermia. If you're not running Pandemonious, don't run hypothermia. Everybody on the gosh darn leaderboards of POE Ninja is running hypothermia, and they're not chilling all the time with every hit. Unless you're all the time chilling with every hit, run a different gem. Run Crit Multi, run Cold Pen, run something else. It may show you as more damage in the program, but unless you're chilling every single hit, this isn't always checked, right? And for me, as you can see, that's a lot of damage. So is the enemy on Consecrated Ground? Is the enemy chilled? Is the enemy a boss? Yes, Shaper Guardian, 7-5 in Consecrated Ground. Total DPS 200,000 or so, 72 and 505. I don't know if this is per projectile or if it's counting like a big monster might get hit by all 5 projectiles and then it counts. I have 12 stages. It does give me a bit of damage. Let's say they're on spider stacks. There you go, to about 250,000. And so it ends up, it's a really good character. I didn't knock down 5 Shapers in a second, but I don't feel like you ever need to in the game. This was a fun character for me to play. It was fun to level once I got Winter Orb and stuck on LMP. And when you first put it on, it doesn't feel great. As a brief reminder, when you first get Winter Orb and you stick it on, your projectile frequency, how often it shoots out Winter Orbs, isn't very quick. But after you level it up and you get 69% cast speed modifiers before I even have any frenzy charges, so I don't know, 80 or so percent, after you get 80% cast speed, it's practically doubling. And I think on gem level, it increases as well. Oh no, increased duration per stage. And then you get the helmet with stages. All things together, it's a non-meta build that's very, very strong, has really solid defenses, has good recovery. If you want to Enduring Cry and Decoy Totem the planet while you're casting, you can. I found 170 life regen to be just fine with the Golem. I mean, you get a bleed stack, that's what you have for your potions. Insta bleed, long heal, freeze. Granite, this could have been a basalt, but I just wanted to include a granite because not everyone even hits the cap for armor being logarithmically downscaled, but diamond just so that I'm basically never not critting when that's up. And then remove curse, increase duration. Usually you want movement speed on your Quicksilver, but this rolled increased duration and curse immunity, and I like curse immunity. So that was that. I got to 151 on the Atlas. Probably very close to spawning Uber Elder again. I didn't really have an issue with him. Obviously, if I'm able to kill Shaper, Uber Elder isn't that bad. And it made a really solid mapping character for me. So I liked it a lot. I hope you guys give it a try. Winter Orb's not that bad. This is Winter Orb in 3.8 in Blight League, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.
This is my world, and you shall obey my order. Game.
Buy me some time. glad you made it back. Stay sane.